up, everybody? Checking in on all the platforms. We are back with the NFL Draft Talks with me, myself, Armand, and Mike. It's been a couple of weeks. I've been on vacation and all kind of other stuff. So we got a lot of content to come to you the next couple of weeks. But welcome back, guys. How y'all doing today? Happy Easter.
Happy Easter, everybody. Glad to be
Easter,
back.
everybody.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We are finally back. So we got 4 teams we're going to cover today. For everyone that's tuned in, we got the Eagles, the defending NFC champions, the Titans, the Jets, and the Patriots. But before we get good and started, let's go to the Eagles preview. Up first on the stream is the defending NFC champion Philadelphia Eagles. What more is there to say than if anyone had an outstanding season, it was those scrappy Philadelphia Eagles. After having an outstanding draft in which they acquired a first-round pick, which ended up being a top 10 pick in the draft, the Eagles had a tremendous 2022 season, finishing with 14 wins, the number 1 seed in the NFC. They defeated the Giants and the 49ers on the way to another Super Bowl appearance where they had a great game, but unfortunately fell to the hands of Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs by a final score of 38-35. After that great 2022 season, the Eagles entered 2023 with a couple of key moves that they have to make. They lost a couple of key pieces like Javon Hargrave in free agency, and they are looking to build off of that tremendous 2022 season, and they are in a great position. The Eagles have 2 first-round picks. They traded one of their picks last year with the New Orleans Saints that required a first-round pick from New Orleans that turned into a top 10 pick. And they're also going to be picking at number 31 as well. With several draft picks, a couple of key needs that's going to go into 2023. Let's see what the Eagles' biggest needs are, where the Eagles might go in the draft, and what are our predictions and the local mock predictions for the defending NFC champions, the Philadelphia Eagles. Okay, first starting off about the Eagles, let me go ahead and gloat for a second on this stream. Last year, I called Philadelphia going to the Super Bowl. They were my pick to win the NFC way from the beginning. But let me also correct myself. On the video, I said they were picking number 31 and picking number 30. Typically, they would have been picking 31, but unfortunately, because of the situation with the Dolphins situation, they lost their first round pick. So, of course, Philadelphia was able to retain a decent amount of their roster. I thought they were going to lose a couple of guys because they did let guys like James Bradbury go to free agency for a moment. Darius Slade was talking like he was going to be out of Philadelphia. They ended up working it out with him. They did lose Chauncey Gardner-Johnson to Detroit. So, and Hargrave went to San Francisco 49ers. But my number 1 need for the Eagles is safety. With Chauncey Gardner-Johnson and Marcus Epps, your 2 starters, they're gone. You got to get a safety. Their starters right now is Reed Blankenship and Justin Evans. You have never heard of those guys. I know. You have never heard of those guys. Let's just be honest. They need safety help in the worst way possible, and they're in a good position. They could go get a first safety in the 2nd or 3rd round. I don't think that's their first round move. Maybe Brian Branch come into play later on in the draft at number 30, but I don't think that's number 10. But they do need some help in that back end. Your secondary, as far as corners, they're good to go. But those safeties are god awful. Their other position is linebacker. This is kind of tricky because they drafted Nakobe Dean last year. He's going to be one of their 3 starters. We know that out the gate. But because of Philadelphia is running a 4-3, Hassan Reddick is going to be their pass rusher. They're not going to be playing him at linebacker. They lost TJ Edwards and Kazir White, so you got to go get you some linebackers in this draft at some point. You don't have to make it a first pick need, but you can get one maybe day 2 or maybe wait to day 3. Depends on how Philadelphia feels at the time. So that could be one of their needs that they could look into as well. Their 3rd need is running back. They lost Miles Sanders to Carolina. I know they love Kenneth Gainwell, but I'm going to be honest with you. Do you want Kenneth Gainwell or Rashad Penny, who you just brought in for free agency, or do you want somebody like a Bijan Robinson or Jahmyr Gibbs at number 30? It's not even a question. You got to get you a running back in that scheme. Jalen Hurts is a mobile quarterback. You need somebody that can take the pressure off of him. You got the receivers. You got the talent on offense. You got the offensive line. You got the MVP caliber quarterback. You need you a legitimate guy who I can give the ball to in the Super Bowl. My problem with the Eagles in that Super Bowl loss was there was nobody. Jalen Hurts had an outstanding game, but you need a running back that can just take that pressure off. I like their scheme that they were running, but I think you need a guy that, hey, grind them yards out. Let's get this win. But I think that's their biggest problem that Philadelphia could look into getting this offseason. And another one, this might shock everybody, for me, is wide receiver. Because A.J. Brown and Devontae, clearly number one, number two. Quez Watkins is supposed to be your number 3 receiver, but let's be honest. He's just a speedster. You need somebody that is a consistent number 3 that can take that pressure off, because you know teams are going to come in this season and try to double team A.J. Brown. Of course, Devontae's going to get his looks, but you need another person to take that pressure off of those two if they're in a situation where another person got to make a play. You got Dallas Goedert, but you do need a wide receiver 3 because you got Zach Pascal. Zach Pascal's not your wide receiver 3. I'm sorry. I know you brought him in last year. He's not a wide receiver 3. No jab at him, but nothing shows me wide receiver 3 like that guy. Okay, so my mock for those teams, for number 1, I have Pascal's not with you no more. Thank you for the correction. So do you need a number 3 and a number 4 receiver? So the mock drafts have Walter Football has the Eagles taking Lucas Van Ness out of Iowa at 10 and Osiris Torrance at number 30. CBS Sports have the Eagles taking Bijan Robinson at number 10. Weird. I know. This is weird. They haven't taken Bijan Robinson at number 10 and Nolan Smith out of Georgia at number 30. Trapasso out of CBS Sports have them taking Jalen Carter at 10 and Joey Porter Jr. at number 30. Josh Edwards have them taking Nolan Smith as well at 10, and Kalijah Cassidy, the D-tack out of Pittsburgh, at number 30. And Kyle Stackpole has them taking Nolan Smith at number 10, and Brian Branch, who I just mentioned a few minutes ago, at number 30 out of Alabama. So those are my needs for the Eagles. I'm going to let either Armand or Mike take the 4 next and see what they say about the Eagles.
Yeah, I think Nate hit it perfectly. But my needs for the Eagles are safety, D-tackle. I kind of agree, maybe not at 10, but running back as well, defensive end and offensive tackle. So we know what the Eagles did last year. I think many people expected them to be good and great if it all depended on Jalen Hurts. It was his team. You know, they did what they did with Carson Wentz because they believed in Jalen Hurts, and he showed promise at the end of prior to last year. Helped them get into the playoffs. They didn't have a good showing against the Bucs, but that was when the Bucs were, you know, a legitimate Super Bowl contender, and the Eagles were kind of there before their time. They were there a year early. But I've seen Jalen Hurts from up close for a long time, and I believed in him. I knew he had the intangibles to get things done. I knew he had the work ethic, the desire. He had all that. So I just felt like he was a perfect place. Philadelphia was a perfect place for him. So I was excited when he was drafted by them. But I think the Eagles have a best player approach. I mean, you're coming off a Super Bowl. You know, you're still relatively a youngish team in comparison to some teams that may have gotten to a Super Bowl. And as far as their roster age, overall age, I think it's around, I think it's 30 and a half. That's relatively young compared to prior teams that's made it to the Super Bowl. For comparison to Tampa Bay Bucs, when they made it to the Super Bowl a couple of years ago, they had a overall age around 33, 34. So I know 3 years doesn't seem like a lot, but when you think about the total average of your team age, 30 and a half, that's pretty young compared to recent teams. Like Nate said, they lost CJ and Marcus Epps to free agency. So I think safety is something that they will address. And I mentioned on a previous show that I believe that They might look at Brian Branch from Alabama. He's kind of like a Swiss Army knife. He can play nickel corner, but he's mainly at that safety position. But he's very versatile. I think that would be something that they could look at. Nate also mentioned that they lost Javon Hargrave, but because of who their GM is, Howie Roseman, he had a plan, and Jordan Davis is there in the wings waiting, and so maybe that is what the Eagles will do this time around. They're good at, hey, we got a player here, but maybe we should draft as a replacement just in case because of age. Maybe he might leave. Maybe he might. We can't come to terms on a contract, and that's where I lead to Darius Slay. That for a minute there, he was even tweeting out that he was gone. He was saying thanks for everything, Philadelphia fans. I love y'all and all this. So maybe they might go a cornerback just because he's 32 in age. But hey, let's see. The Eagles had an NFL high of 70 sacks last year. My philosophy is if it's not broke, don't fix it. So the Eagles are really, again, I reiterate, they're in a position to draft the best available position, which many teams are not able to do. Let's see. I think at number 10, this has been the hardest thing for me to do. I want them to go Bijan Robinson, but Howie Roseman, the Eagles GM, has already came out and said that his approach, his philosophy, draft philosophy, is to not draft a running back. They do not prioritize running backs in the first round. So, I can't go running back because the man from it could it be a smokescreen? Absolutely. But because of past drafts, the history of running backs in the draft, and him just coming out and saying that, and the way their team is constructed, although I want them to go Bijan Robinson, I believe they're going to go cornerback Devin Witherspoon. I say this because Darius Slay is 32. Got James Bradbury. Darius Slay is still playing at an incredible level for his age, but at the end of the day, he's still 32. You don't know when that fall off is going to come. It could come in spurts. It could come drastically. You just don't know. But you want to go ahead and draft your replacement like they did last year with Jordan Davis. He's waiting in the wings, and now it's his time to shine. And I believe that's going to be the case with Witherspoon. Witherspoon, if things happen, injuries occur, you have him. You got a first-round top 10 pick to go in and plug in right away. Even if he just sits back and learns from Darius Slay and Bradbury and the rest of those guys, that's a win-win situation as well. So why am I saying Witherspoon? Well, he's an elite player, elite prospect. He had the third best production score amongst defensive backs at the combine a couple of weeks ago. He has a Levi Wallace comparison. Levi Wallace has been a above average cornerback. I would say a cornerback 2 on most teams during the duration of his NFL career. And he won Big Ten Defensive Back of the Year last year, and he had a 34.9 completion percentage ratio when targeted last year in Big Ten Conference. And he was going up against some top prospects at receiver and at tight end. Sometimes he got matched up against tight ends. He struggles with penalties. He gets real handsy at the 5 yards. It's a penalty if you got your hand on the receiver at the 5 yards. He has some penalty issues. He also kind of gets beat on double moves and play action. He bites too hard at times. But I believe that negative of his game is something that can be corrected at an NFL level. They'll focus on his eyes, making sure that they harp on, hey, eyes. You always hear that as a defensive back. Your eyes have to be in the right place, because if your eyes are in the wrong place, you got to receive it 20 yards down the field for a touchdown. So I think that's something that Philadelphia, they'll harp on. They'll get that corrected. But I have Devin Witherspoon as the 10th pick. As far as their final pick at 30th, I know a lot of people have them going with Nolan Smith. I have them going with Will McDonald over Luka Van Ness, because I believe Will McDonald out of Iowa State is a better prospect over his rival at Iowa, Lucas Van Ness. He had an incredible year last year. I think he's just the better prospect at that position. And yeah, so I have them going with Devin Witherspoon at corner, number 10, and I have them going Will McDonald, defensive end out of Iowa State. Again, they had 70 sacks last year. If it's not broke, don't fix it. So why not go ahead and plug in another player that gives you the same type of versatility, same type of just production that Robert Quinn gave you, all those other guys gave you, and just get younger at that position. So yeah.
All right, now that's a lot of good points in regards to the Eagles. I definitely did struggle with the Eagles periodically as well. They did resign a lot of veterans who were on the team last year. The needs similar: safety, defensive tackle, defensive end, guard, running back, and linebacker. I think at 10, Howie does like to go for best player available, but also he has addressed some needs. I know that he likes to build from the trenches and build out. I know Darius Slay, James Bradbury. I think that they will try to run that back just one more year. They did sign Greedy Williams, former Browns cornerback, to a 1-year deal. So hopefully a change of scenery will benefit him. But I think I sense a theme with going on with the Eagles. They really like one particular school in terms of their drafting, and I think that they will go back to that well with their 10th pick. And we saw last year at the combine that Travon Walker skyrocketed with his athletic performance, and a lot of people were concerned about his actual numbers, that, oh, he didn't have a lot of sacks, but his impact on the game for his teammates was very, very evident. And he had a really, really good first year. And so there was another Georgia defensive lineman who had a really, really good combine that I feel that will be a great fit to success, to take the place of Robert Quinn, who the Eagles lost. They lost Robert Quinn and Javon Hargraves. That's probably about 20. I have to look at how many sacks that Robert Quinn had last year, but that's a lot of sack numbers to lose between two players. And them being, the number one sack team next year is most likely not going to happen. So with that being said, the 10th pick, I have them taking Nolan Smith, the edge from Georgia. I think that he fits what the Eagles want to do in getting pass rushers to get to the quarterback, to keep that edge doing a lot. But you really want to have that excitement and burst. I mean, Derek Barnett's been up and down there. Brandon Graham did resign, but it was for a 1-year deal. I know that he had looked to possibly, explore other options. And they're getting a little older at that position. So I think that, restocking at defensive end is going to be an option. I do think Bijan will be in play. Don't forget Josh Sweat. He's a really good player. Yes. So got to make sure you have those bodies to rotate, especially in the NFC East. And with the 30th pick, I had them taking Brian Branch, safety from Alabama. They did sign Terrell Edmonds to a 1-year deal, former Pittsburgh Steelers, so he'll be playing as strong. But Reed Blankenship is kind of an unknown commodity at the moment, but I do think that he'll, have a chance to battle it out for the free safety starting position. I think the Eagles are in a really good place right now. They have to agree to an extension with Jalen Hurts. I think they have their outside weapons with A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. I know there was some talk about a third wide receiver, which I think they could go get in the later part of the draft. There's a lot of smaller wide receivers that are speedsters that I think that they can address. But yeah, I think the Eagles, Howie Roseman is a good GM, and he definitely will know how to manipulate if he does potentially want to trade down from 30 to trade back next year in 2024, or he may trade up. You never know if they have a player in mind.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And that was some great outtakes that y'all had on the Eagles. We kind of all was in the same ballpark as far as the Eagles. They don't really need too much, but they are in a great position where they can just reload and run it back and go for another Super Bowl run. And it's funny that we're talking about the Eagles and AJ Brown because the next team up on the stream is the team that he just left, who I'm sure a lot of y'all know collapsed at the end of the season. So before we get into the Titans, let's hit the Titans preview. Up next are the Tennessee Titans. Tennessee entered the 2022 season with a lot of uncertainty after trading AJ Brown to the Eagles, firing their GM John Robinson, and not really sure what they were going to do at quarterback between Ryan Tannehill and Malik Willis. Despite all of that, they jumped out to a 7-3 start in the season and had a firm control over the AFC South. The Titans will go on to go 1-6 down the stretch as they ended up losing in Week 18 to the Jacksonville Jaguars, who went on to win the division over them in the final game of the regular season, finishing at 8-9. Now the Titans enter this offseason with a very tricky situation. They don't have a lot of money to really sign a whole bunch of people in free agency. They potentially wanted to move Derrick Henry. They don't really have a set quarterback, and they only have 4 draft picks, which is another dismal thing for the Tennessee Titans. Up next, we talk about their biggest needs. What can the Titans do to improve off of their 2022 collapse? And what are the mock drafts projecting that the Titans do at number 11? Up next, the Tennessee Titans. Let me correct myself. By the way, I said in the preview that they had 4 picks. They have 6. I was thinking about the top 150. They have 6 picks overall. But that still don't take away nothing from what I said about the Tennessee Titans being a mess that they are. They're coming into this season with, I don't really know what they're going to do. They probably going to move Derrick Henry at some point. Me and Armand was just talking about this before we even came on the air. They're probably going to move Derrick Henry. That team don't have a lot that they don't have a future, if you ask me. To me, they got more needs than the situation that they're in right now. But based off my needs, their number one need in my eyes was offensive line. They might have to replace 4 spots on the team, just to be honest with you guys. Taylor Lewan is gone. Dennis Daly, I don't know if he came back. Aaron Brewer should only be a backup. Ben Jones is a veteran. You really got to address your offensive line at some point throughout this draft. You cannot, if you do keep Derrick Henry, they're not going to be able to go in with that pitiful offensive line that they have right now going into that season. It's not going to work. And then how's that going to work for if you come back with Malik Willis or even Ryan Tannehill? That's another situation that you don't really know what you're going to do as far as the offensive line. Wide receiver. First of all, don't know why they traded AJ Brown to begin with, but that's a topic for another day. Treylon Burks did not work out. Treylon Burks he was not impressive. And outside of Treylon Burks, who do you have? Robert Woods went to Houston. So you don't have nobody at wide receiver out there. You got your receiving core is Treylon Burks, Nick Westbrook, Kyle Phillips, and Racey McMath. Do y'all know any of those guys? We know them because we watch football. But do the casual Tennessee Titan fan or casual NFL fan know any of those wide receivers? Absolutely not. And if you do, they got to be somebody that you're related to. They need a wide receiver bad. Really, really bad. Quarterback. They really do need to figure this situation out because, number one, Ryan Tannehill is a $36.6 million cap hit for the Titans this season. I'll be trying to move on from him if I was them. And Malik Willis turned out to be totally overrated. I don't know if my boy Tevin's watching. He was not high on Malik Willis. We had a conversation all year last year about Malik Willis. They need a quarterback of the future. They don't have a quarterback of the future. Ryan Tannehill don't have any more years left in the NFL. I don't know what to say about Malik Willis. Malik Willis definitely, outside of Kenny Pickett, had more opportunities to really thrive first season, and he didn't really do much with it. And outside linebacker. outside linebacker. Oh boy, I got to throw this comment in here while I'm just talking about the receivers. KD Bailey said the receivers not even good on man. Hey man, be nice. But outside linebacker, they definitely need to address this. I think they have Zach Cunningham right now, but I know he was a potential cut candidate for him. But Dupree is another guy that they were moving on from. They need linebackers bad. They really need a lot, to be honest. They need a lot on this team, but I'm just really throwing off what they really, really need right now. But the Titans are in a very weird position. Okay, but for my mocks, just to be honest with you, oh boy. CBS Sports, 3 of the 4 analysts for CBS Sports have the Titans trading up to number 3 for a quarterback. They have 2 of them, which is Ryan Wilson and Chris Trapasso, has the Titans trading up to take Anthony Richardson out of Florida. Another one has them trade up to number 3 to take Will Levis, the quarterback out of Kentucky. Kyle Stackpole has him staying put at number 11, taking Will Levis out of Kentucky. And Walter Football has him taking Anthony Richardson out of the University of Florida. I think they could get away with getting a quarterback in the second round, maybe a Hendon Hooker, depending if his stock doesn't rise in the next couple of weeks, because it usually happens like that sometimes. But I don't know. To me, they got more problems than picks. But I'm gonna pass it over to whoever want to take it over next. Hold on, before I get out for this Malik Willis' first year, he may end up being okay still early. You're absolutely right. You are absolutely right about that one. That is so true. So I don't want to jump the gun too soon on Malik Willis, but that's a great point that you just made.
Well, if you won't, I will. Malik Willis ain't it. He ain't it. The organization has clearly indicated that. I think that they do value his skill set, and he's going to take some time, but I don't think he's the future for the Titans. Like everything that you said, the Titans are really in a really unknown spot. I mean, I won't even say unknown. It is known. They're rebuilding. In the NFL, it's either you're going to compete for a Super Bowl, or you're going to rebuild. And I think based on everything that has occurred this offseason, I think that the Titans are in a position to rebuild. I know they did hire Ron Cathorn from the San Francisco 49ers. I know there was, some rumors early in the offseason that he might pursue Trey Lance. Not going to rule that out potentially down the line if Trey Lance is not going to be the future with Brock Purdy being in San Francisco. The needs are very, very evident. The offensive line is gone. Taylor Lewan battled lots of injuries, really one of the better offensive linemen that the Titans have had. They also lost David Long, DeMarcus Walker, Nate Davis was serviceable as well. So they lost a lot in the offseason. They also cut Bud Dupree as well. One of the things that was interesting about the Titans is that people refer to them as this team that gets off the bus. They look good getting off the bus, but once they get on that field, it's a whole other ball game. And Derrick Henry's getting older, and I think you gotta let that go. I think the Titans, 2-3 years ago when they beat Tom Brady and the Patriots, I think that was their window, and I think now that's passed, and now they have to rebuild. I'm not really understanding why the trade up from 11 to 3 is occurring. I think putting a quarterback in that situation to not really be successful isn't ideal. I was a big Treylon Burks fan last season. I think it's just really a bad situation for him. I know he did have some conditioning issues with asthma that was really prevalent during the training camp workouts. But 11th pick is really interesting. I have them taking Paris Johnson, offensive tackle from Ohio State. They did draft Nicholas Petit-Frere last year, who started at right tackle. Vrabel has a lot of connections to Ohio State, obviously being an OSU player. So Paris Johnson was a 5-star recruit coming in from Cincinnati, Ohio. He started at right guard His first year that he transitioned to the left side where he played very, very well. I think he would take the place of Taylor Lewan and would be really helpful. The Titans are also contemplating building a new stadium in the future. So I don't know if drafting a quarterback right now, especially with Caleb Williams and Drake May coming next year, will be ideal because there's going to be a lot of teams that are tanking in the NFL that it was occurring in the NBA right now. There's going to be a definite tank for Caleb Williams watch going on, but my big philosophy is if you don't have a quarterback, build the rest of the team. Don't put a quarterback in a situation where he's gonna die. It's just pretty much. You don't want a David Carr situation to happen where a quarterback's mentality is going to be destroyed because there's not an offensive line to protect him. So Titans are in a rebuild, but I think they're starting to accept that. So I have them taking Paris Johnson from the Ohio State University. Go Bucks! It's all yours, Mike.
Nate mentioned it actually before he even got started with the AJ Brown. Like he didn't even know why they traded him. Well,
Hey, Mike,
what?
you got to hit this real quick. She just rated a great comment. It seems like AS trying to make the Falcons Tennessee Titans 2.0. That's a great comment.
Hopefully, we build it a little bit better to where we can, our Super Bowl is not beating Tom Brady and sending him to Tampa Bay. So hopefully we can do a little bit better than them. I think we have a leg up on them because their GM was fired, and that's what I was about to talk about. Nate was talking about how he didn't know why they got rid of him. Well, in December, John Robinson, their former GM, was fired and let go after they started. They were 7-5. They started the season 7-3, and they kind of saw the writing on the wall. They started 7-3. They fired them at 7-5. They had higher standards for what they felt where they were, and things just got worse as the season went on. Anyways, so my needs for them are O-line, a receiver, tight end, corner, edge, and I have quarterback, but I'm not sure what they're going to do at quarterback, so I left that on the back burner. I don't think that's what they're going to address in the first round. So free agency, they got Andre Dillard from the Eagles. He's going to play left tackle. He's a veteran. He's going to replace Taylor Lewan, who was released. But Dillard, he has the physical tools to be a great offensive lineman, but he's dealt with injuries. He's dealt with terrible injuries. He was never able to secure the starting position or starting role in Philadelphia because of those injuries. And so that kind of hurt him. So I'm leaning towards offensive line as I'm going down my list, making the checks. I also want to mention that they just gave Jeffrey Simmons an extension, $94 million, 66 guaranteed. And that was kind of like a head scratching move because I had heard like, well, do you think this team would trade for him? Do you think this? And we've all heard the Derrick Henry rumors. Is he going to go? So it was kind of interesting to see that they basically said that he's the cornerstone of our franchise, regardless of if we're going through a rebuild or not. And that comment from Ms. B was kind of interesting because she mentioned Arthur Smith making the Falcons Titans 2.0. It's kind of like the Titans are going through what the Falcons went through when they were like, "Hey, Grady, you're our cornerstone, so we're gonna lock you up, even though we're about to go through a rebuild." So it's kind of like two parallels coming from both sides, going back and forth. So I do think that they could have got the most draft capital out of trading Jeffrey Simmons, but I guess when you're in that phase of moving into a new stadium, trying to get the revenue and all the money, the finances correct, you don't want to make it so obvious that you're tanking because that could turn off the city, that could turn off the fans. Like, hey, we're about to get hurt in Texas trying to help you build this stadium and look at the product on the field. So that might have been more of a PR move saying, hey, let's go ahead and get our cornerstone back here. So we can move forward to the future. I don't know what they're going to do with Derrick Henry. I think the situation is a little bit different with Jeffrey Simmons. He's a little bit younger, and Derrick Henry plays at a position that is not as premium as far as you get older. So I do think that if the deal is right, they will move him. But I hope they don't get into a Julio situation where they wait too long and they get to a point where Derrick comes out publicly and is like, I want to go somewhere else where I have a chance to win, while I still have some tread on the tires, and they don't get maximum value for him. I still don't think they'll get anything close to a first, maybe not even a second for Derrick Henry at this stage of his career. So they may be looking at a 3rd round pick, and that might have some reasoning or logic as to why they haven't made a move yet, because they're like, if we're only going to get a 3rd or a 4th for him, we might as well just keep him. Moving on, we all know Armand mentioned it about how they walk off the bus, they look like, champions. Well, they want to be physical. That's who they are. That's who Mike Vrabel was. Armand mentioned that as well. They want to be physical on both sides of the ball in the trenches. Moving on to Treylon Burks, I wasn't impressed by him, just like I wasn't impressed by Malik Willis. But they're two young players, and they're not in the best of situations right now. They didn't have Malik Willis. Man, that offensive line is terrible. The receivers are not adequate. The receivers have been worse than the Falcons, dare I say. I know we added Drake London, but outside of Drake London, you had Zacchaeus, you had Frank Darby, you had Brian Edwards, who is now in New Orleans, who Saints fans believe is going to be the second coming of I don't know who, but they believe he's going to be a difference maker in that receiver room. I don't know why. He had 3 or 4 coaches' decisions, did not play this year, so I don't know what's going on with them. But the rookies didn't have they wasn't set up to be successful by the organization. It's not looking good, but I hope they get another opportunity. I'm not sure if they will. Treylon Burks will, but I'm not sure about Malik Willis. I put cornerback as a need as well, because they got Caleb Farley, who's a former first-round pick. He's dealt with injuries, and he hasn't looked like a first-round pick. And you can blame that on injuries, but he just hasn't looked like a first-round pick. So they brought in Sean Murphy-Bunting as a depth move, and that actually moved right now. They're projecting Caleb Farley to be the 3rd cornerback on the opposite side of Caleb McCreary, who is an early-round pick out of Auburn a couple of years ago. So that just shows you what they think about Caleb Farley at this stage in his career. Let's get into some numbers. Last year, the Titans were 28th in points, offensive points per game. They were 30th in yards. They were the bottom in the league in both passing and offensive, passing defense and passing offense. The defense was average. You could tell the defense is kind of slipping. They're not where they were a couple of years ago. They were 14th in points allowed per game. They were 23rd in yards per game. But they were number 1 in rushing yards per game as far as stopping the opposing team. Yes, Miss B, I know. But yeah, so on both sides of the ball, they still kind of dominate the game as far as rushing offense and rushing defense, but they have to improve in their secondary, which is why I think they will be in the area of drafting a cornerback early in the draft. Armand and Nate both mentioned Ryan Tannehill. He's in the last season of guaranteed money. After this year, the money is voided, and it will turn into $9.2 million as far as dead cap. So regardless of what happens this year, I think this is Ryan Tannehill's last season. And Ms. B actually mentioned it earlier. He didn't even want to help, kind of like build up Malik Willis. He was like, I'm not here to do that. I'm here to win games. I'm not here to babysit. And I thought that was unprofessional for him to come out and say that in the public, even if you did feel that way. That probably even killed like any type of chemistry the two even had going on in the season. It's kind of, and it makes you wonder, was he like speaking in his ear, like building his confidence up while he was struggling, while Ryan Tannehill was sidelined with injuries? Because Malik Willis, when he was put in the game, he looked like a quarterback that didn't have any confidence to throw the ball downfield. And you would think that a veteran quarterback like Ryan Tannehill would have, I'm injured. He's not necessarily taking my position right now. I'm injured. I can't play. Why don't I just build him up? Because that can help my team. And so when I come back, I don't have to fight for a playoff spot. We already have a playoff spot secured. So the Eagles, not the Eagles, I'm sorry. The Titans, I believe they're going to go with offensive linemen. And me and Armand, great minds think alike. I selected Paris Johnson Jr. as well out of the Ohio State University. I think he's versatile. He played left tackle last year, and he played, I believe, right guard in 2021. So he's versatile. He can play anywhere on that line. I think that gives them a cornerstone on the offensive line. The offensive line is so porous, and why not just go ahead and make arguably your biggest weakness a strength right out the gate? So I have been going with Paris Johnson Jr. out of the Ohio State University.
Yes, sir. I see a lot of Ohio State love in this group. I see it from my boy Armand. I see it from Facebook user. I know it's Tevin. I told him to fix his StreamYard 50 million times, but he don't listen. But anyways, I'm gonna show y'all have y'all seen the Titans' new stadium yet? Or the projected thing for the new stadium? I'm gonna show a quick picture before I go to the Jets. I want everybody to get a chance to see. This is the picture of what's gonna be the new Tennessee Titans Stadium when it is projected to open in 2027. It's just a couple of pictures of it. Want to touch on it real quick. That's what the concert area is going to look like. Nice stadium. They better get a team out there. I promise you. You better put a winning team together before 2027. Trust me, the Falcons learned it best. But getting ready to transition on to the team that I have no idea was we're gonna go ahead. I'm gonna throw the team up here first. It's the New York Jets. They at the moment are the 13th pick, but I know everybody's been hearing the Aaron Rodgers news, so we're going based off them staying at 13. I don't know what's gonna happen to Aaron Rodgers. I'm sure we're gonna touch on that a little bit before we get done talk about the mock. But let's touch on the Jets real quick. Up next, we discuss the New York Jets. New York had an outstanding 2022 NFL draft in which they drafted Garrett Wilson out of Ohio State and Ahmad Gardner out of Cincinnati, and both won Rookie of the Year. They also hit with Breece Hall, who was playing well before he unfortunately tore his ACL. The Jets got off to a surprisingly good start with a 7-4 record before their season fell apart in the end, losing their last 6 games to finish 7-10. Now the Jets enter the offseason with a potentially wild situation. There's a lot of rumors that's been jumping around that it hasn't happened yet, but future Hall of Fame quarterback Aaron Rodgers could potentially be a member of the New York Jets. They had a pretty productive offseason, and we want to see what the Jets will do in their approach to becoming a postseason team in the near future. Now we talk about the Jets' biggest needs, the potential draft picks, and much more, including the mock draft and what they're saying the New York Jets will draft in several weeks. Up next is the 2023 New York Jets. Okay, as we talk about the Jets, let me shout out to my boy Justin Brown. I know he's tuned in. I see a comment from him. I'm gonna post it soon. This is one of my favorite. This is one of the best stories outside of the Detroit Lions last season. They had a great draft. Sauce Gardner balled out. Garrett Wilson balled out. That team really showed some potential. Breece Hall went in there and showed out. So they got a lot of potential going forward. I'm looking forward to see what the Jets do. But I would love to see Aaron Rodgers out there with that team. I'm not sure how that's going to play out. They end up getting Alan Lazard. They got Miko Harbor. They got some depth at wide receiver for sure. It's going to be fun. That Jets team is going to be a fun one to watch this season. But hit on a couple of their needs at 13. If they're staying at 13, I believe they will. The first need I have for them is on the offensive line. They did lose their center, Connor McGovern, in assuming in free agency. They have had injuries that they've had with Mekhi Becton. They still got Elijah Vera Tucker. If they can stay healthy. Those two guys can make a huge difference on the line. Dwayne Brown is 38 years old. That's not your long-term guy. And that could actually be their number one pick, possibly. I could see Broderick Jones out of Georgia at this spot. I can see Paris Johnson at this spot. I can see Peter Skoronski at this spot. It's potentially somebody is going to go at this spot as a number 13 pick. And I would love to see that for the New York Jets. Another need I said for the Jets is defensive tackle. Defensive tackle, they got Quentin Williams, but they really need another person on the opposite side of Quentin Williams. You got to be able to get pressure up that middle in your division, especially. You got Buffalo, that crazy Buffalo offense you're dealing with. You're dealing with Miami and the super speedsters out there in Miami. So you got to be able to stop that run, get after the quarterback. So they're not far off. Honestly, they're not far off. Truth be told, they're not. Safety, they could address another safety. They went and traded for Chuck Clark this offseason. So that's another option that they could go with because Ashton Davis is their other safety. And you know they're not starting no Ashton Davis unless you're playing Madden. Moving along, linebacker is another need because outside of CJ Mosley, I'm not sure if Jermaine Johnson is considered a DN in their scheme or is he considered a linebacker? Could be an edge possibly. But I know from the San Francisco scheme, you want to get you some solid linebackers. Because anybody that watched the 49ers know that they are big on the linebacker position out there in San Francisco, and that's where their coach came from. He was the former coordinator of the 49ers at one point. So those are my big needs for them. And honestly, like I said, the Jets aren't far off. They really have done an outstanding job of what they're doing. They could be the surprise of the AFC if everything falls the way that it needs to fall for them. But as far as the mocks, Walter Football has been taking Broderick Jones out of UGA at number 13. Of course, as a Bulldog fan, you are absolutely going to love him. We had one of the best offensive lines not named Ohio State last season. So that group, you're going to love Broderick Jones. Ryan Wilson also has some taking Broderick Jones as well. I'm telling you, if you watch Georgia football, you seen Broderick Jones jumped off the screen to you. So you couldn't have missed him. Christian Prosso has them taking Kalijah Cansey, the D tackle out of Pittsburgh. You have heard all three of us talk about that guy at one point in the stream. He's going to be the most underrated D tackle outside of Keon White, in my personal opinion, in this draft. Josh Edwards has been taking Brian Breesy out of Clemson. That would be a great move to add to Quentin Williams. And Kyle Stackpole has been taking Peter Skoronski out of Northwestern, excuse me. I almost said Ohio State. But those are the moves that they have them doing. Before I pass it over, I want to hit these comments real quick. Justin is a Jets fan saying we're staying at 13 and drafting the DT to complete our first. Okay, so you confirm it's a 4-3 scheme. I'm glad to know that. Because that's what I was assuming. Miss B said, I don't know how I find y'all channel, but this is my first time watching. I must say y'all are so professional and knowledgeable. Y'all speaking fast. Hey, I really appreciate that. Come back for more. We are definitely going to do more. We got more shows to come. We're going to do a live draft. Of course, me and Mike talk Falcons during the season, so you're going to get a chance to see us at our happiest and our angriest because a lot of times I come from these games as a season ticket holder be mad with no voice, so you're going to get a chance to see all of that. Let's see. The next comment is from Justin. We need to have a healthy offensive line and a competent quarterback. Rodgers. Absolutely. I definitely think that it could potentially be. I think he's going to end up there. I definitely he's going to end up there. And one more from Justin. Mixed emotions due to his age. And we've been in a predicament at the back end of Brett Favre's career. Came into the playoffs. So I see Rodgers doing it again. Yeah, that Aaron Rodgers could really make a difference with the New York Jets. I would love to see it there. But I'm going to pass it over, and I see I'm sure that's Ryan is commenting from Facebook saying that please take Aaron Rodgers. He's a Packers fan. We're going to talk about y'all on the next show, matter of fact. So get ready for that. But I'm going to pass it over to whoever wants to take it there.
I just want to say I appreciate all the comments. And Miss B, it's a funny story. It shows how it's a small world. I'm actually familiar with Miss B because another one of my guys, Antoine Smitty Smith, Smitty Sports Machine, check him out on YouTube as well. We try to get him on the show, and I've seen Miss B on his show as well. So, got a nice Falcons family going around. So we appreciate everybody. But on to the Jets. I have them. Man, Yeah. So it's a foregone conclusion that Aaron Rodgers is the quarterback, that he's gonna be traded to the Jets. Otherwise, that would be my number one need for them. But I still have them on the list as a need because anything can happen. We've seen that before. So I have quarterback, offensive tackle, defensive tackle, and the linebacker position. Nate mentioned that as well about the scheme that Sala runs. So the main reason why I'm going with offensive line is because they had so many injuries on offensive line last year. They had injuries, period. Brees Hall was on his way to Rookie of the Year at running back. He looked phenomenal last year. I know they're excited to see how he looks now. I've seen reports that he's back to full speed now. He should be ready for training camp and whatnot. So he's looking good. He's looking healthy, and I'm excited to see him back on the field. I can't wait to see what he looks like if he has a competent quarterback. He already has the receivers. Now he has more room to maneuver behind. Man, we thought Brees Hall was good last year when they were stacking the box. Just wait. So Mekhi Becton, a former first-round pick, he's had injuries over the last 2 years. He has never played a full season. He's had 2 knee surgeries in the last 11 months. 2 in the last year. He has a fully guaranteed contract worth $3 million this year for the 2023 season. They're not going to pick up his option. And even I think this year is a prove-it year for him. And even if he excels and has a great year, I doubt they give him another contract. At the bare minimum, they're going to franchise tag him if he plays absolutely out of his mind. But this very well could be his last season in New York. Nate mentioned it. Dwayne Brown turns 38 this year. Vera Tucker, he had a triceps injury last year. And Max Mitchell has played less than 400 snaps in his career. So offensive line is a no-brainer. If you're going to bring in a guy like Aaron Rodgers, you need to protect him. It looks like they have the weapons. They have McCole Hardman, Allen Lazard. They traded my guy Elijah Moore, which I thought was a mistake because I think he's a straight baller. He was upset about the offensive scheme and the quarterback, and you're validating his concerns with the offense by targeting Aaron Rodgers, but you still traded him. I guess you had to because you wanted to get some compensation for him, and maybe that bridge has been burned. You know, maybe things were said behind closed doors to the GM and coaches, and he no longer wants to play with them. So, you know, it is what it is, but I still think that's a mistake. So Odell actually visited the Jets facility, I believe, this week. So where there's smoke, there's fire. So this Aaron Rodgers thing must be like a done deal, and it's probably going to take place on draft night because you're not going to have Odell, you're not going to have McCole Hardman coming in, Allen Lazard, his former teammate, coming in if he's not already there. So hey, what else I want to talk about before I hit my draft pick? So
hey, I gotta interrupt you. You got one more comment that came to you.
No, we love it. We appreciate your support on all platforms. So keep doing what you're doing, Miss B. On offense last year, the Jets were 29th in points, 25th in yards, 15th in passing yards. That stat is a little bit misleading because they were 3rd in passing attempts. So don't think that, hey, maybe Zach Wilson and whoever else they had at quarterback last year, maybe they just needed some more time. That's not the case. They were 4th in attempts. And they were 25th in rushing yards. On defense, they were top 4 in passing. They were top 4 in yards and points. So the defense is solidified. There's some moves that need to be made here and there, but there's no major moves, which is why I don't see them going for a defensive player in the first round. I do see them going for a defensive player later in the draft, but I do see them going offensive line in the first round. The secondary is elite, headlined by Sauce and DJ Reed. They were number 1 in passing yards allowed last year. I think they need to improve in forcing turnovers. Their secondary only forced like 12 turnovers last year, and that was like, I think, 19th in the league. So they need to improve with their coverage skills. The coverage skills are already elite, but they add turnovers to their arsenal. That defense goes up another notch. So I do not believe Zach Wilson or Chris Streveler will be their go-to guy next year at quarterback. I believe I'm going under the assumption that Aaron Rodgers will be there. And I already mentioned that they need to protect Aaron Rodgers. You're not going to bring somebody there that's going to be running for their life at the back end of 30. You have the weapons at running back, at receiver. You have the defense. This is your time to go and make an announcement to the AFC that we are here. And bringing in Aaron Rodgers is the first step. The second step is drafting Broderick Jones out of Georgia. I debated with this. It was either going to be Pete Skoronski or Broderick Jones. I went with Jones because he's faced elite talent for the last 2 or 3 years. Elite NFL talent that we've already seen that produce at the NFL level. So I believe that he is ready. There's no disrespect to Mr. Skoronski. I think he's going to be a heck of an NFL player. But I'm going with the guy that has faced the elite talent year after year. I have the Jets drafting Broderick Jones Jr. out of Georgia.
Got a lot of Jets haters here. Very, very interesting. I'm not a Jets fan, by the way. I don't like the Jets because they came back. They scored 13 points in a minute and 2 seconds against the Browns when we were winning that game in week 2. And I don't even know how that happened, but that's another conversation for another day. I hear all this excitement about the Jets, about Rodgers and all this stuff. Today is April 9th. The draft is April 27th. They got 18 days to potentially make a move. That is very dangerous to me. Extremely dangerous. And to be perfectly honest, the Packers could just be like, hey, we don't got to do this. Rodgers, he gonna retire? Jordan Love is right there for us to start. Yeah, we can use them draft picks, but we good. Y'all not. We know Zach Wilson ain't the answer. He interested in messing with people's mamas more than playing football. That's where his credit comes from. So you got 18 days to find you a quarterback. They better get busy because even if they trade for Rodgers, it's a 1 year thing. And it's kind of giving me Russell Wilson vibes in regards to trading for a quarterback from another conference coming to the AFC in a loaded division. Let's be honest. The Jets finished 7-10 for a reason outside of quarterback play. They did have injuries. A lot of those receivers like Lazard is cool. The OBJ talk. And also they have Garrett Wilson. That's a lot of people to throw the ball to. How's Robert Saleh going to manage all them personalities on offense? How's the offensive coordinator going to manage all those personalities on offense? They need offensive linemen. Mekhi Becton, like Michael said, 2 surgeries in 11 months and knee surgery for anybody is very bad. It's very bad for a man who is 6'8", 350 pounds, who needs that mobile joint movement to go back and forth going against elite defensive ends, leveraging speed. So it may sound really crazy to me, but I think the smart route, and I don't even know if they're going to keep this pick if they even trade Rodgers. So let's just say they hypothetically keep this pick and keep Rodgers. It's very boring, but I think that, yes, Broderick Jones is very, very in play. But I also feel like I want to do something that's going to shake the table a little bit. I want to give them Hendon Hooker from Tennessee. A lot of people in the last couple weeks have said that Hendon Hooker has risen up the board due to the fact that, yes, he's 25 years old, but a lot of GMs are looking, hey, guys are retiring early. If I could just utilize a guy and get him in for 4 to 5 years, which his team is where it's at, we can make a run. I do think that they do need offensive linemen, and I do think Broderick Jones is the pick that I would really go with, but I would not rule that out if they do not get this trade done by April 27th. Unless the Jets, they did trade Elijah Moore and got the Browns' 42nd pick. Unless they want to move up in the draft, they're going to have to move up pretty far. That I'm just concerned because I think the holdup is the compensation the Packers are asking for. And to be honest, the Jets are desperate right now. You got 18 days to get this done, and I think it will get done. But I'm just looking at right now. It ain't looking good. And you still need offensive linemen. You got a running back who's really good but coming off of injury. And you're talking about bringing in Odell Beckham with all these 3 receivers. That offense, I'm a little worried about just the chemistry of that. The defense is amazing. Quentin Williams, Carl Lawson, you got CJ Mosley, the old head, Sauce Gardner, from University of Cincinnati, DJ Reed, great story, lost his father. One of the games he got an interception. Really, really good team. But the Jets, I would go with Broderick. I'm going to go with Broderick Jones in this situation just right now. But Hendon Hooker is somebody that's going to be interesting, who could be what they thought Geno Smith was going to be for them when they drafted Geno Smith. So that's where I'm at. Just wanted to shake the table, give some perspective right now.
Oh, you shook it. Oh, you definitely shook it. All right. And that is enough on the New York Jets. And last, but I guess not least, is the New England Patriots, their division rival. Let's get our last preview of the Patriots, and let's tap into them. Up next, we talk about the New England Patriots. After coming off a surprising 2021 playoff appearance led by rookie quarterback Mac Jones, the Patriots look to build off of that success in 2022. However, that did not translate to the team that year. Unfortunately, the offense took a major step back. They were middle of the pack in offense. They didn't put up a lot of points. Didn't have a lot of talent on that side of the ball. Although Ramondre Stevenson ran for 1,000 yards, the Patriots had their worst rushing season in over a decade. However, that defense was still top notch. They were top 10, nearly top 10 in points per game. They didn't give up a lot of big plays, and that defense, once again led by Matt Patricia, was solid once again. This offseason, the Patriots will look to improve off of the unfortunate end of their season last year. They will look to make an impact in the draft. They have 6 top 150 picks. They also have a couple of key players that they could move on from and save some cap space. They went into free agency with $32.4 million. They did make a lot of big moves in free agency. So we're going to look and see what the Patriots will do in the offseason, what they're going to look into in the draft, and what the mocks have the New England Patriots doing at 14. Up next, the New England Patriots. Okay. Where do I start with this boring New England offense? Let me get that out the way. That offense, that's another Tennessee-like offense. They're a mess. But I'm gonna get this before I even hit my knees. They have 11 draft picks. I don't know if y'all knew that. They have 11 draft picks. They got a first, second, and third. They got 4 sixth-round picks in the 7th. If Bill Belichick don't hit on half of these picks, then Tom Brady was the real deal up there in New England and not Bill Belichick. And I'm going to go ahead and say it. I ain't trying to throw no jab. He is going to end up with 6 Super Bowl rings, but I'm just saying, you got a ton of draft capital to make some shake in New England. They better get some type of offensive talent in there, considering you're in a division with the Buffalo Bills, the Jets have talent. You're definitely the worst group of talent on the offensive side in the division. And it's not even close. It's not even a close. You're not even a close number 3. You're definitely the worst. But just to go back to what I was talking about, their first need for me is a cornerback. They did reload at this position and came away with Marcus Jones and Jack Jones. And they did get they got a lot of Jones. They got Marcus, Jack, and Jonathan. If you're all not aware, they're the Jones at corner. So those guys are talented, but the Patriots need a big corner, because when you look at the fact of your division number 1, you need a big corner that can stick neck, and they got a lot of short guys out there in New England. There's nothing against those guys. Not saying they can't make plays, but you need a tall, solid corner, just to be honest with you guys. And that's one of their problems. They didn't have a lot of depth. They got Sean Wade, that Armand would like to forget about, from Ohio State. He has definitely not lived up to his promise out there in New England. That's a key position you want to kind of look into. At 14, they could potentially go after Joey Porter Jr. or Deontay Banks, or maybe a Keely Ringo or Emmanuel Forbes could be in play there. But they definitely need to add another corner, a solid corner. Offensive tackle, here's the tricky thing about that offensive tackle thing for the Patriots. They definitely have, oh my God, let me hit this comment. Another Ohio State fan said, who is Sean Wade? He was just a guy that ran a scholarship at Ohio State. Anyways, offensive tackle, they do have Trent Brown and Riley Reef. They got swing tackles in Connor McDermott and Andrew Stubber, but you need a legit right tackle, because they're going to both be up for contracts this offseason coming up. So you better get you a veteran in there if you can possibly get you one. If you're going to go in the first round, this could be a potential place for a Broderick Jones, a Paris Johnson, a Peter Skoronski to fall to in New England. It's not a immediate need, but you want, if you're like we have said about the Philadelphia Eagles, if you want to look into this team putting talent on the field this season, you need to go after that now so you don't have that problem later on. Wide receiver. When Mike just mentioned earlier, y'all bear with me, because outside of Atlanta and Tennessee last year, you can make an argument this was one of the worst receiving corps in the league. This team had no type of talent wide receiver. No Devontae Parker wasn't no stud. No Aguilar wasn't no stud. You got that group just sucked. That's a nice way for me to put it. They brought in Juju Smith this offseason, so that might help them out a bit. But they really need to upgrade the wide receiver position. This could be a potential spot for Quentin Johnson, a Zay Flowers, a Jackson Smith. You could really look into a big position there. And honestly, this is one of the deepest classes at wide receiver you've seen in a while. You have no reason not to walk away with at least one wide receiver in this class. The other one for me is safety. You do have Kyle Duggar, but Devin McCourty just retired. So you would like to add you another solid safety at some point in the draft. You could potentially look at Brian Branch later in the draft. You could find yourself running up with a Chris Smith from Georgia. A couple guys that are out there that could be in play for safety in New England, and they will fit well. And a comment, Tevin just made a great comment. He said the Patsy quarterback, corner, wide receiver, offensive line, D end, left linebacker, and D tackle. I'm not sure how they went 8 and 9 either. That probably does predicate to their coaching. Absolutely. So again, as we said, New England got 11 picks, so they got a chance to do something in this draft. But my mock has the Walter Football has taken Peter Skoronski out of Northwestern. CBS Sports, Ryan Wilson and Kyle Stackpole has him taking Devon Witherspoon out of Illinois. Christian Pross has him taking Deontay Banks out of Maryland. He's probably one of the guys you've not heard talked about a lot, but he is definitely a first-round grade at this point. And Josh Edwards have them taking Paris Johnson Jr. out of Ohio State. So they're kind of leaning in the same direction that I am with them. But again, like I said, New England better get some talent out there on offense, because you're in a division with the high-powered Miami offense. Buffalo's not going nowhere, and the Jets have talent on their team. Even if you don't have Aaron Rodgers at quarterback, which I think they will, but again, you definitely are looking at a position where you got to keep up with the whole division and the AFC. We're just talking about those three. Look at Cincinnati with that receiving core and the Chargers and the Chiefs. You got too many teams in the AFC alone that has better talent than you do right now. So that's my take on the New England Patriots. There ain't much you can really say about them. They don't have a lot of talent on offense. But I'm going to pass over to who I want to take it next.
Yeah, New England. Yeah, I don't know how they went 8-9 last year, but they always find a way, just like the Steelers, to just end the season on a really good note. There's a lot going on in New England. I'm not sure if fans have heard recently, but Mac Jones is not in the kindest place with Bill Belichick right now. There's been some reports that he's sought outside guidance outside the Patriots organization of how to, run the offense, because Matt Patricia was garbage in terms of his play calling. They brought in Bill O'Brien to be the offensive coordinator. There's even been some talk that they might even trade Mac Jones just because Belichick is just he's not happy with that move. And we know how Belichick can get. Once somebody's in Belichick's doghouse, Michael's sitting back waiting for his turn to tear these passes up. Yeah. So that's a major issue. They do have Bailey Zappi. So I think they'll have somebody to at least just play the position, not maybe be great. But yeah, their needs are offensive tackle, cornerback, linebacker, wide receiver, nose tackle. They did lose Dante Hightower to retirement. There's a lot of directions I think that they can go here. It was really tough, but the Patriots have not drafted well in the first round in the last 4 to 5 years. They drafted Cole Strange. I think he was from, I don't even remember, Chattanooga last year, that threw everybody off. So if you had that in your mock draft last year, you should be very happy. But they haven't drafted really well. And I think that's really caught up to the Patriots and showed how much Brady covered up for a lot of draft mishaps that have occurred with the Patriots. And we know Belichick has, a relationship with Nick Saban. He doesn't really watch college football. So it's really hard to mock the Patriots. So I know it's very difficult. So I'm going to... There were a couple last options that were here for me. So I think the traditional route would be to go with the offensive lineman like Peter Skoronski. I'm just going to kind of do this weird thing. I'm going to go with Brian Branch. Actually, no, he's on my other one, so I can't do that. I'm going to go with Zay Flowers from Boston College at 14. So they actually passed Jackson Smith and Jigba in this situation. And, Zay Flowers is a local product. He went to Boston College. He's a senior, 22. He's a deep threat, can stretch the field vertically. I think that's what the Patriots really, really need. Their offense, like Nate said, was vanilla. It's plain Greek yogurt, in my opinion, with no toppings, no sugar, no berries, just straight plain Greek yogurt. You gotta get some flavor in that offense, man. You're playing against, Robert Saleh, who's a defensive mind. You're playing against the Miami Dolphins. They got, premier players across. They got Jalen Ramsey. Just even thinking about that. They have a great secondary in Buffalo. Poyer came back. So they really need to get some infusion within that offense to get some juice. Tyquan Thornton he just was there last year. It was kind of a stretch pick in the second round. I'm not sure really what's going on with the Patriots. Yes, we know our offense was trash, and we're still going to comment that your offense is trash. So we're that's why we're here. We're here to help. We're here to help. But yes, I think Zay Flowers could be a nice bolt of energy to bring into the Patriots offense. I do think that Jackson Smith and Jigba could be an option here, but really don't draft Ohio State players too much. Rest in peace to Terry Glenn, who they drafted way back in the 90s. But I'm gonna give them Zay Flowers, local product. Bill's just probably like, hey, who's this guy? Is he good? All right, we'll take him at 14. So I'm gonna pass it off to Mike. I don't really have much else to say about the Patriots.
Yeah. So nobody's gonna feel sorry for the Patriots and the state of their franchise that they're in. They terrorized the NFL for nearly 2 decades, over 2 decades. So, I'm not gonna. It'll be unprofessional for me to come out and say that I'm enjoying what they're going through. But I think many people have their mindset. We're not gonna feel sorry for what they're going through. They're in a state of flux. You really just give Bill Belichick the benefit of the doubt, much like people give Greg Popovich with Spurs, even though they haven't had a winning season in 7 or 8 seasons. So the offensive, the needs for the Patriots, there's so many, but I narrowed it down to offensive line, more specifically right tackle, cornerback, receiver, defensive end, and defensive tackle. Armand mentioned it. There are rumors that Mac Jones and Bill Belichick are not getting along. There have been trade rumors, and I thought this was a bad selection for them in the first place. I actually thought that it would have been a home run pick for the 49ers to draft Mac Jones in that system that they have rather than Trey Lance. And right now, we don't even know whether that was a good pick or not because Trey Lance has been behind Jimmy G. Now he's behind Brock Purdy due to injury. So we don't even know what the trajectory of Trey Lance's career is. But I do feel like Mac Jones would have been better suited for that offensive scheme with that heavy West Coast offense with the zone running with Kyle Shanahan in San Francisco. Moving on, last year, the Patriots were 17th in points per game. They were 26th in yards, 20th in passing yards, and 24th in rushing yards. So that even with Ramondre Stevenson having 1,000 yards and you had Damian Harris, who was their starting running back for much of the last 2 seasons, they were still bottom of the barrel as far as rushing. Defensively, they still have that Belichick handprint stamped on them, and they're pretty much still elite. There were 11 in points allowed, 8th in yards allowed, 16th in rushing yards, and they were 16th in passing yards and 6th in rushing yards. So that is still a top level defense that if the offense were to take a step up, they would still be in the mix in that competitive division that they're in. So when the Patriots were winning Super Bowls back in the early 2000s, not the back end, but what were they known for? They were known for, of course, Tom Brady making it work with whoever he had on offense, good offensive line, and that stellar defense. But there was a mainstay on that defense that played nose guard, defensive tackle. His name was Vince Wilfork. And that's something that they have missed for a while now. Wilfork was in the middle of those defensive Super Bowls. They drafted Christian Barmore out of Alabama, and NFL Hall of Famer recently said, Richard Seymour recently stated that he believes that Barmore has elite traits. He has everything you need to be an elite defensive tackle. He just needs to stay healthy and be on the field. Christian Barmore missed a lot of games last year due to a knee injury. It was stated that he didn't need knee surgery. He just needed time off. They say he's looked good in workouts so far. So I think that's the first key. And you already have it on your team. You didn't need to go out to free agency or the draft to get it. You need that defensive line to be your stalwart so you can have Matthew Judon and everyone else going around you making plays. They also just signed Devin Godchild to a 2-year deal last year. So he's on his last year of the contract. So they may be looking for a piece to pair with Christian Barmore, or they believe that Christian Barmore, if they disagree with Richard Seymour and they don't think that he has that next elite level that he can reach, they may be looking for a defensive tackle in the first round. They may move up to get Jalen Carter, or he may fall into their lap. Who knows? That might be a nice pairing, Christian Barmore and Jalen Carter. Cornerback is also an area where they should address, and they will address. Devin McCourty retired. And their 22nd fourth round pick was suspended for much of the year last year. They did draft Marcus Jones out of Houston last year in the third round, and he was actually a very, very, very one of the best players. Actually, he was very productive for them. They got him in the third round. So Armand mentioned that they haven't done well drafting early in the draft, like first round picking on their first round picks, but they're still doing a decent job of finding those value picks, and it just goes back to what they did with Tom Brady those 20 years ago. But what with the state of their franchise now, they really it's very important pertinence for them to hit on their first round pick this year. I mentioned corner. They can hope that Christian Gonzalez falls to them or Devin Witherspoon. I don't think they will. So the next best option would be for me, if I were them, I would trade back. I would trade back into like the late 20s and draft Joey Porter Jr. I think he'll still be there. And you're going to have a decent second round pick. You're probably going to get a good return for drafting back. And that could kill two stones with one bird. You can draft Joey Porter Jr. late in the draft and maybe get a Jalen Hyatt early in the second round. Or you could address another need and go ahead and get a receiver later on. Nate mentioned that it's a very deep draft as far as skill position players. So if you don't get a good receiver in this draft, then you can't go the full season with Devontae Parker, Juju Smith-Schuster, who like Tyquan Thornton and Kendrick Bourne. That can't be your receiver room if you plan to compete in a division where you have Jalen Ramsey, you have the Bills, you have those guys. So they need to make a move at receiver at some point. And who wasn't on the receiver? It was AJ Brown who was going back and forth with Juju Smith-Schuster earlier in the year or a couple of months ago saying, Patrick Mahomes resurrected your career. Your career was over. And I kind of agree with him. You know, he still didn't have that great of a year, even with Patrick Mahomes as his quarterback. So what do you think he's going to do with Mac Jones or whoever is at quarterback? But with all that saying, it comes down to what you're going to do with Mac Jones or Bailey Zappi. You're not going to win in the NFL without a quarterback. So it really doesn't matter what they do in the first round if that doesn't get addressed. But I'm going on with the premise that Mac Jones is going to be their quarterback during the NFL season. So I'm going to go with something that may help him and protect him because they were pretty terrible as far as protecting him. I think he got hit 20. They allowed them 26 most quarterback hits last year. Not going to work. It's not going to work with any quarterback, but especially not going to work with an unproven quarterback that you're not even sure about. And you don't really have. I mean, you have Tyquan Thornton, Kendrick Burns he's a decent route runner, but Tyquan Thornton is your guy that can take the top off the defense. Bill Belichick recently hinted that Mike Gesicki is more so seen as a big receiver more than a tight end. So I really don't know what they're doing on offense. I don't know what was going through Bill's mindset when he hired. I think Nate mentioned it. The offense coordinator last year, who had been a defensive mind, had been a head coach for Mike Patricia. I'm not sure what he was going through there. I'm not sure why he went back and hired Bill O'Brien. Bill O'Brien is probably one of the more overrated offensive play callers in football, in my opinion. He was decent at Penn State. He was actually only decent with Tom Brady. Think about it, he was decent with Tom Brady. I think that was more so a Tom Brady thing more than a Bill O'Brien thing. And he was decent at Alabama. I think that was more so a talent that he had at his disposal more than a Bill O'Brien thing, because it was shown that when Bill O'Brien went up against elite defensive play callers and he didn't have the weapons that he needed, he could not schematically scheme players open to make things easier for Bryce Young. So with that said, I know that's a lot, but I have them going with I already have Broderick Jones off the board, but I have them going with Peter Skoronski out of Northwestern. I think he's the best available offensive lineman available at that time. I have Broderick Jones off the table. I have who else do I have off the table? Paris Johnson Jr. off the table. So that leaves him as the best player available. at that position. So I have them going with Peter Skoronski.
Hey, you call it a lot. I call it valuable information, sir. But yeah, these are the 14 that we were gonna cover today. I don't know if Mike and Armand realizes we've hit 17 of the 32 first round picks already. So we only got 15 to go. And we got 18 days to do. We're gonna get it done, y'all. Believe that. We're gonna get it done. But this day it was some great information given this show. I'm definitely gonna try to get with both of them as far as getting the show done this week. We want to at least try to get down to the last few picks because the final show that we do draft pick wise is going to be featuring Armand's Cleveland Browns. So we're gonna have to make sure he be getting ready for them when we talk about those Cleveland Browns. So
oh boy, oh dear.
So the next show that we do, we're gonna try to aim to do it this week. Let me get with their schedule and everything, and we'll go from there. But the next 4 teams, we're starting to tap into good to playoff teams this upcoming next show. You got the Green Bay Packers, the Washington Commanders, the Pittsburgh Steelers, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers is the next 4 teams that we got coming up. So I'm gonna ask the guys if y'all got anything else to say before we get out of here on this Easter Sunday.
Nah, it's a really great show. Hope everybody enjoyed their Easter with their families. Send some questions to us, man. If you got anything for the next show, man, even if you don't like a team or whatnot, we'll definitely be able to answer. But thank you to everybody who tuned in on their Easter Sunday. Glad to see the support.
Yes, I echo Armand's sentiments. You could have been anywhere today. You could have been with your family, spending time with them. But for those that were tuned in and a lot of y'all from what I see were tuned in for a large portion of the show. I appreciate it. I know we all appreciate it. We all really hit on some of the same guys. I think this for the first time, like I think it was 3 or 4 teams we did today. I think on 75% of those teams we hit on the same guys. And I think that's where those teams are going to go. We were really offensive line heavy today because those were really heavy needs for those teams. And great minds think alike, like I said earlier. But I'm excited to get into some bona fide playoff teams next week. I know we hit on the Eagles today, but there's some interesting teams on this list that we're about to hit up. The Steelers, the Packers, what are they going to do in I guess post Aaron Rodgers era, the Bucks post Tom Brady era, the Commanders post Taylor Heinicke era. But it should be interesting. I look forward to it.
I like how you did that side when you said Taylor Heinicke. But hey guys, until next time, this has been another NFL Draft Talk with Nate, Mike, and Armand. We will see you next time. Y'all have a great rest of your Easter Sunday.